Right, part 2. Express 9 over root 6 with a rational denominator. Remember, rationalise the denominator means get rid of the square root on the bottom. Now, the method that we use to get rid of the square root on the bottom is that we multiply by root 6 over root 6. The reason we do that is because we know that if we multiply root 6 by root 6, basically the square root of 6 times the square root of 6 is the square root of 36, which is just 6. If you multiply root 5 by root 5, you get 5, okay? So to get rid of root 2, you multiply by root 2 over root 2. Root 2 times root 2 is 2. Right, so 6 in the bottom, at the top we've got 9 root 6. 9 times root 6 is 9 root 6. However, it's not finished yet because it does say, and remember it's simplify, you always simplify anyway. Simplify the home numbers, not the root 6. 9 over 6, the top, just goes down to divide top and bottom by 3, 3 over 2. So it's a 3 root 6 at the top over 2. Okay, the root 6 does not simplify. The 9 and the 6 simplify. Right, number 12. Given that cos 60 equals 0.5, state the value of cos 240. Right, I think having a wee sketch of the cos graph really does help you with this. I think we mentioned the cos graph earlier on. Cos looks like this, and that would be 360. That would be 180. That would be 90, and that would be 270. Okay? Right, so cos 60. Cos 60 is, there's about, we'll say 60's there, okay? 60's about there. And what they're telling us is that that number there is 0.5. Okay, 60 in from the end. Now, if they're telling us that 60 in from the end is 0.5, you have to work out cos 240. Now, where is cos 240? Cos 240 is 60 in from here. 240's run about there. 240 would be about there. Okay? And it's that number there. You could probably have a guess. Yes, it's negative 0.5. Okay, it's only worth 1 mark, just in case you're wondering. We don't need a sketch, just writing the answer down. No working at all would be fine. Okay? Number 13. Here is a triangular prism, it says. A to D and A to E are equal. Mentions here, A to D and A to E are equal. Where's the... Oh, right, okay. A to D and A to E are equal. D to C is 8 units. It's telling you that's 8. What else is it telling us? A to D is a triangular prism. E to F, D to C, and A to B are all parallel. Right, okay, what's it asking for? What are the coordinates of B and C? There's B up there. So remember, for B, you're thinking, how far along is it? It's the same distance along as this one here. So that's 2 along. Okay. How far back is it? Well, it's the same distance as this one here, which told us was 8. And how high up is it? Well, it's the same height as point A. How high up is point A? It's 5 up. Okay, that's why it had a number at 5 at the end. So that's point B. Point C, how far across is it? Oh, this is quite a tricky one. Right, E is 2 along. Point A is in the middle, okay? The top of the triangle. Point A is 4 along. Now, if that's... Oh, right. If that's 2 along to there, and that's 4 along to there, that means this distance in here is another 2. So this distance in here will be another 2. So D, all the way along to D, is actually 6 along. Okay, so point C is in line with point D along the way, so that's going to be 6. How far back is it? It's 8 back. How high up is it? It's nothing upwards, it's flat on the axis. Okay. change the subject of the formula, and we're changing it to x. X is currently on the right hand side, so what I tend to do with a question like this is write g root x plus h equals y. Switching the whole thing around does nothing to the actual positives and negatives, okay? Right, move one thing over at a time. Right, the last things you move are the things that are stuck to the x. That plus h is not anything stuck to the x, so I'm going to move that first. Leaves us with g root x equals y, take away h. Right, the next thing we're going to remove is the letter g. What's the letter g doing? It's stuck to them, it's multiplying. How do we remove it? We do a division by g. Okay, and finally, you know root x. So what's the opposite of the square root? The opposite of the square root is to square. How do I show that I'm going to square this side? We put it in a bracket and write squared. Okay. Remove the brackets and then simplify. Okay. So the bit inside the bracket is all to be multiplied, or it's all to be squared rather. Everything in the bracket is to be squared. So basically, see the 2/3? We need to square that. Oops, that's a squared. And also the p to the power 4 has to be squared as well. Now you could do this without any working, okay? You could just jump straight to the answer if you know what you're doing. So we need to square the 2/3, square the top, square the bottom. So it's going to be a 4 at the top and a 9 at the bottom. So that's the squared, the fraction. And what happens with the p to the power 4 when you square it? The rules of indices tell us that you do p to the power 2 times 4 is 8. So that's us. Sketch the graph. On your graph, show the point of intersection with the x-axis and the y-axis and the turning point. Right, okay. This is quite a big question. Right, so first of all, I am going to show you how we find the roots of this. Okay, the roots. Find the roots, find the solutions. We can find the roots or the solutions by setting both factors equal to 0. And on this one here, x would equal -4 here. So these two numbers that I've worked out, these are the solutions. What does that mean in terms of the graph? 6, roughly, I'll put here. -4, I'll put roughly about there. This here is a parabola. It goes down to -4 and back up through 6. Okay? What else? Right, so that's showing the intersection with the x-axis, -4 and +6. What we also need to do now is show where it intersects the y-axis, and we'll find the turning point. Right, where does it intersect the y-axis? It's that point there. If you're ever asked where... Tell my kids to shush. Go through there. Let's see. Find out where it crosses the y-axis. To find out where it crosses the y-axis, what do? You sub in x equals 0. If it was asking you to find out where it crosses the y-axis, you sub in x is 0. If it asks for where does it cross the x-axis, you sub in y is 0. Sub it into what? We sub it into the equation. Right, x is 0. -6 times 4. -24. What's the coordinate? X is 0, y is -24. So that is a point -24 there. Okay, you don't really need to write it on as long as you've got it clearly indicated, okay? We've worked out it's -24. Right, also, what else have we to do? What is the turning point? Right, the turning point always happens right in the middle of the two roots. So what number is right in the middle of -4 and 6? right in the middle of negative 4 and 6, if you're not too sure. If you don't know what is right in the middle of negative 4 and 6, add them together and half it. The number that's right in the middle of 4 and 6 is 1. Okay, so that's the number 1 on the x-axis. It does say find the turning point, so you need to find the value of the y value. Okay, it's probably a wee bit below the negative 24, it dips a wee bit under. How do you find the y value? Well, you've got an equation that works out y. What do you do with it? You sub in. We know what the x value is, so what we're going to do? Sub in x. What is x? X was 1. We just talked about it. X is 1. Sub in 1. If x is 1, that's going to be negative 5 times 5, which is negative 25. So the turning point is actually that number there, 1, negative 25. Okay. Number 17, the square base pyramid is shown in the picture. The square of the base is 6 centimetres. The volume is 138. What's the height? Like the volume of a pyramid. The volume of a pyramid. You're given a formula for the volume of a pyramid. There it's there. I'll put it up at the top. So, the volume of a pyramid is equal to 1/3 times A times H. A stands for the area of the base. Okay? So, what is the area of the base? Right. The base is a square. So the length times the breadth. 6 times 6 is 36. So we've got the value of A, it's 36. So what we know is that 1/3 times the area of the base, 36, times, we don't know the height, I'm just going to leave it as H. We know the answer to this formula though. This formula works out the volume of the pyramid. The volume of the pyramid is 138, it tells you in the question. Okay, this is one of these working backwards type questions. So what we've got here, a couple of different ways you can do it, makes no difference. If you want, some people might have just done 1/3 times 36 is 12. Right, 1/3 of 36 is 12. 12 times H is 138. And how do you find H? You do 138 divided by 12. Others might have moved the 3 across and multiplied by 3 and then divided by 36. It doesn't make any difference, okay? Remember, this is a non-calculator paper, so you're going to have to be careful with your numbers here. If you don't know how many 12s actually go into 138, simplify. Divide them both by, I'm just going to divide them both by 2 each time, okay? Divide them both by 2. I'm going to turn that down to 69. Yep, 69 over 6. It will simplify. I'm going to divide by 3 now. Divide by 3. 23 over 2, or if you want, 11.5. Okay, does it mention anything about it? No, so we'll say 23 over 2, or if you want, 11.5. Doesn't matter which way you leave it. Centimetres, yes. Express sin, cos, tan in its simplest form. This is a trig identities question. Whenever you see a trig identities question, if you see tan, you replace tan by sin over cos. Okay, so I'm going to replace the tan part by sin over cos. So it says sin x, cos x, they're all multiplied, times by, this is what I'm replacing by, sin over cos. Now, you've got a cos at the top, divided by cos at the bottom. They're going to cancel out. Really what you're left with is sin x, now then multiplied by each other. Sin times sin, x times x. We write this as a sin squared x. Okay, just like x times x is sin x squared, sin times sin is sin squared. Oh, we've got one question more. Express this in the form, so this is a completing the square question. The method, again, as soon as you see this question, I'm hoping you know the method. Something to do with the -6 there. Half it. That should get 1 mark already. Okay, half of negative 6 is negative 3. If that was a plus 8, x squared plus 8x, you would half it and you'd write plus 4. Half it, so we've done that. We now square the negative 3. Negative 3 squared is 9, and you always take that number away. Now, if you normally do this question slightly different, just make sure you get the same final answer, okay? The working is not the important part. This, which I'm writing down right now, is the final answer, which is the bit you must get right. You can actually go straight away and write that down without any working, okay? So half it, square it, we squared the 3, and that's why I've put minus 9. You always take away whatever you get when you square that number that you've put in the bracket. And the wee minus 81 is just the remaining part of the question. Right, okay, where are we? State the equation of the line of symmetry of this graph, okay? That is the same equation as this one up here, okay? So if you had an equation, if you had a graph that had this as your equation, the turning point, I know it's not asking you for the turning point, but the turning point would be, comes from here and here, the turning point would be 3, negative 90. Okay, remember you always change the sign in the bracket. That would be your turning point. I'm just pointing that out because it does help you get the answer to this. The first number, your turning point in the line of symmetry always goes through the turning point. So the actual equation of the line of symmetry is simply x equals 3. That is your answer. You didn't have to do anything that I've written down there, right? Simply x equals 3 would get you the mark. It's only worth 1 mark, okay? I would just put that down to show you where it was coming from. Right, the roots of the equation can be expressed in this form. Find algebraically the values of d and c. Right, so it's saying the roots. It's asking you to solve it. And it's giving you something, right, okay. So how do you find the roots? How do you solve that? Well, we can't factorise it. It's not going to factorise. We're going to have to use a quadratic formula. And you're probably sitting here thinking, what quadratic formula in a paper one? Yes. Here we go. We'll put it... no, we're going to put it down at the bottom. Just give us... There we go. There's a quadratic formula. Put it at the bottom. Okay? Right. So A, B and C. A is 1 a squared. B is negative 6. And C is negative 81. Okay? So to get the roots are minus b plus and minus. This is your quadratic formula given on the formula sheet at the bottom. We're subbing in the numbers. This is how you find the roots. Negative b. Negative b is already negative 6, so negative b is positive 6 then. Plus and minus. B squared, negative 6 squared. Take away 4 times 1 times minus 81. All divided by 2a, 2 ones. Let's tidy this up a wee bit now. So it's 6 plus and minus the square root 36. Take away 4 times negative 81. 4 times 81. And it's not that difficult. 4 ones are 4. 3 is 32. Right. Take away, and remember it's 4 times negative 81, so it's negative 324. All divided by 2. Again, tidy it up a wee bit. It's 6 plus and minus the square root. Now what happens when you do 36 take away negative 324? It's 36 plus 324, which is 360. And yes, remember, it's non-calculator. Let's see. So what does it say? It says express it in the form of d plus d root e. Right, okay. It kind of looks a bit like that. It doesn't have the 2 at the bottom. The 6 is over the 2, plus or minus the root 360. Right, they've both to be divided by 2, right? The whole over 2 means they're both to be divided by 2. I'm going to take this on to the next page, okay, just to... Right, what I've got there, what was it? I think it was this. That was us. We just need to make this look a bit more like what they were looking for, okay? 6 over 2 is obviously 3. Right, we need to tidy up this wee bit. Root 360. Simplify a third. Okay, you should be able to simplify root 360. Root 360, two numbers that multiply to it. One's a perfect square. Highest square number that will go into 360. Highest square number, 6 sixes are 36. Root 36. Root 10. What is the square root of 36? 6. So really what you've got here is 6 root 10 over 2. So it's 3 plus or minus 6 root 10 over 2. Remember, don't simplify the 10 in the 2, simplify the 6 in the 2, the whole numbers. Really what that is 3 root 10. 6 divided by 2 is 3. And that's what they were looking for. Okay? Right, I'm going to give you some questions. You have a go. Let me know if you need any help. Best of luck.